Two guys against AI. Here we go again. This one's we're going to talk a little bit about some people that we know because either as students or grandchildren or something else, or children. Gen Z versus the machine, I'm calling this one. Heavy use, rising anger.
What happens when you're looking down the barrel of a shotgun?
Yeah. What happens when you don't have control over your future?
Well, I think that's we
and you don't even have an idea what to envision for a future. I think we're seeing this with this. Look, I feel sorry for this generation more than you know. As a Gen Xer, I always felt sorry for myself, right? Because that was our mantra. But I really feel millennials. You know, I'll hold my tongue. And I have children who are millennials and children who are Gen Z. But Gen Z, it's wild when you think about what they've had to go through already, and what's been placed in front of them. And it doesn't surprise me that you see the rise of all this online gambling, because when you don't see a tangible future, you're going to go to these counter ways. Like it's almost like your life is a bet kind of way. And when you think about this, I think they're finally figuring out their shiny new robot toy is a corporate meat grinder in a lot of ways. And what does their future look like in this world? And you know, they went to school for a long time, and then they were told to stay home with COVID in certain states, and told, you know, this was for the good of society when they weren't really even affected by that disease long term. So they've gotten it bad from the beginning, I think.
Well, that's true, and at the same time, they're struggling. Where are the opportunities? You know, we talked about this a little while ago in terms of the energy use. So, what are the tangible benefits that we're looking at moving forward? So the automation. Blah. The automation. See, and no, we're humans. The automation is great from the prospect when you think, oh wow, we're going to be able to get all this stuff at a lower cost. But Henry Ford,
where's that?
Henry Ford recognized that if your employees didn't make enough money to buy the product that you make, you got a problem.
You have to be part. So, they had to be part of the process.
So when we look at the whole market economy concept, that you make things and then that's what makes things go on. The automation.
For this time.
Yeah, the automation ultimately does us in, and I'm sure that's what they're starting to see. Is they're looking at this as like, well, what's left for me to do? There was another case too when I start to look at the bigger picture things. Automobile parts rebuilding companies are being bought up and liquidated. They're just nobody's fixing anything. Everything is a throwaway. We're getting moved into a case either whether it be technological obsolescence or whatever the case may be, but all of these opportunities, like being a mechanic, for instance, well, you can't be one if you can't buy parts. Everything is a black box. There may ultimately be no diagnostics. You may need a human to plug them in, and you know what? You might not even need that. What are the things that they can look at in the future that they can't extrapolate that ultimately AI will be able to gobble up?
Everything.
That's it.
Everything. I mean, look. Think about it. There's no housing for them. Mm-hmm. There's no jobs for them. There's massive inflation. There's no set, like when we were growing up, it was like, even at the low end, you could go into construction. You could go, and I don't mean low end from a person. I mean the unskilled end. You could go to the factory. Yeah. There were things you could do.
Yeah.
What does this look like for them? They found the trades again, and good for them.
Right.
Because there might be some opportunities there, but Could they ever make enough to buy a house?
I think that the sobering part of this is that we're actually starting to see the types of progressions going into the future that we discussed in earlier episodes here. So what does the post-AI life look like when everything is handled for you? Does that make you happy? Like you said, is the only excitement online gambling?
I mean, I think here's where it is. You become addicted to a technology that is making you miserable.
Scary thought, isn't it?
I mean, and you don't know another world.
So
you and I live in a very valuable. We both grew up in an analog world.
We did.
That digitized.
Mm-hmm.
They came into a digital world. There's no
escape.
Yeah, there's no, but also I was watching something, and a lot of studies have come out that says that that transition period between the analog and the digital was the height of human cognitive ability, and IQ scores have gone down like 2.2 points per year since then. And it doesn't sound like much when you say it in a decimal point, except when you put all those years together, it's a hell of a lot.
Well, doesn't why bother pretty much come into the category there? What's the reason to excel when there's going to be no advantage? And you're going back to the socialist model, which we haven't seen that was all successful either. Is that when there's no incentive, there's no incentive.
Yeah, I mean, there's no purpose.
What is it? I mean, they
how do you find happiness without purpose?
Yeah, well, you can play the games for a while, but then eventually
it's got to get old too, right?
It's old, and so then where is the way that we're going to be able to be amused? And
we wonder why there's so much violence coming out of this.
Well, it's out of desperation.
Well, it's usually where it does come from, right?
We're looking at what's
helplessness.
Yeah, and not just that. Where's the income? And so as we start to see everything lining up towards the need for a universal income, if it is, and there's going to be a lot of people talk about there's going to be some kind of a reset. I think we're already seeing that the world's definition or the human purpose definition is changing before our eyes. Gen Z now is the first batch to look at that and say, this isn't about somebody in the future. This is us because I already have no opportunity. Like you say, I got a diploma in something that's worthless. An English lit or history. History is rewritten regularly, and you can ask for it. Just flip Gemini on and ask it anything.
Well, I was about to say, what does your expertise matter at this point when a machine's going to provide it to somebody with help with 3 questions?
And the trades for a while, I think, are great opportunities
until the walking, talking robots show up.
Yeah.
And work 24 hours a day.
Yeah. And don't complain.
Don't get sick. Don't steal.
Sure.
They'll just kill us in the end, but they're stealing from us. It's at their power.
But so when we look at that situation, and I don't know how educators in the future are going to be able to muster up the strength to go and blow smoke at these kids, because what we're training them in, how is that going to help them?
Well, look, the dominant ideology when you and I were growing up, and this was and I've always been a firm believer that a society needs a dominant ideology, was work hard, get ahead. That was it. Yeah. 98% of people believed that at one point when I was going through college. That was the dominant hegemony of our society. If you put in the effort, there would be a return.
Exceptional effort, exceptionalism, reward.
Yeah, I don't know that that's believed in anymore. And I don't know if it's manifested anymore.
How can you be exceptional in anything at this point?
Well, you can't outdo the machine anymore.
Okay. I mean, even as we look at this, all right, so we're doing this, and maybe if there's anything exceptional is that we looked at technology and realized that we could throw out, a different point of view. But are we prepared for the redefinition of what the human experience is. And I think that the desperation that is becoming more and more evident in Gen Z, which you have, a hands-on scenario with all the time because, you're dealing with the students and things like that. The fact is that, what do they have to be optimistic about?
Well, I mean, here's what I keep going back to. We can't all go travel because of over tourism. So some people it doesn't matter what system you put in, everybody's not going to get to go do these things, right? Because you can't have every human being go to them. It's impossible.
Well, much less how do you logistically make it happen?
But that's kind of the promise, right? If these systems, you'll get everything.
I think it's kumbaya. Kumbaya.
You're gonna get to go there virtually. I mean, I think I even saw that. Well, some 10% of the people will get to go, and everybody else get to put on goggles. It's not the same. You have
Redefinition of the human experience. That's really where we're at right now, and unfortunately for Gen Z.
So it's a group brought up on digital. They're on various forms of social media, which are, with all due respect, I look at these things and I'm like, these aren't real lives, all right? Because the people who have those kind of lives that I watch these young people post about, the ones who really have them, they don't post it. They don't want anybody to know they're there. They're private people. Like, if you have the kind of resources to have the luxury life, you're not telling anyone because someone might take it away. Like, they're protective. They're real. So it's like, it's all debt. It's all borrowed money.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fabricated realities. But
and how much of it is artificially generated?
Well, yeah, they believe it's real.
I mean, when I have to laugh because one of the things that I look at, with an AI generated message, if you wish, you always look at the hands because that's an area where they have. And the other thing too, you may have an animated head and neck, but you'll find that the body is pretty much stable. It can be very articulate, and they managed to make it to where the face moves with the words and everything like that. But there aren't all that many women that look like the ones that are making the pass and want to meet you.
Well, as your mother used to tell you, those girls in the magazine aren't real.
They aren't real.
And turns out they weren't. They were all photoshopped.
Yeah, and now
they're really not real.
Now it walks and talks to you, and not just that, will keep track of what you say and then use that to enhance the experience. So it gets surreal to me because, like you say, I was an analog child. Where do they go to from this point?
Well, they're not going to go where they need. So here's what I'm going to say. And I got a lot of degrees, right? And I've said that before.
Too.
But I always consider myself a philosopher in the end, which was my first one. Like, I don't care what I study. I'm going to look at the metaphysics, the philosophy, the ethics, all of that of it. And here's what I am. I can do that because of that analog world. Because I know how to read. And I read all those things. And I read them over and over again. Because it's what we have. We have books. Like in 3 channels when it was good weather. Right? Bad weather, maybe 1.
Maybe.
When it snowed, none, right? We had to analyze.
There was always snow.
It snowed all the time on those things. Yeah. Their world was, and even some of them that are just coming out of school now, well, the AI helped me do my homework for me. Well, that's where you go. You go back in, when there's nothing extra, you go back internal, which is always a dangerous place. I used to, when I used to teach about social philosophers, just think about how many of those lives ended kind of poorly. Like, you can only spend so much time in depth before you kind of lose it, right? It's a dangerous place to spend most of your life. But where do you go besides back in?
Well, there's another place to go, though. And you've talked about this before. Other humans as an novel thought.
Yeah, well, how about that?
And I actually took pause.
But then you're going to have to be able to be offended.
Well, that's possible.
Because
but
humans offend.
we're
offensive.
The other thing is that you actually take an opportunity to look around in the world that we live in. Because I think one of the things, and I get caught up in it as much as anybody, and certainly, we do a 9 to 5 job. You go to work all the time. Maybe.
Why do we hate that so much? I actually thought that was a great thing, going to work. I enjoy it.
But if you
Why do
go
so
back,
many people hate it?
Native Americans would take in the world. There was a spirituality of the world itself, and our roles in it.
Well, that's what I mean by philosophically. You're going to look in turn.
We're not
nature.
We're not.
Fortunately, we're going to kill that because of the data centers.
Well, that's true. But the other thing is too is we don't. Most people, they don't think any further than the icebox in terms of like where the food comes from, and maybe there will be a reawakening.
Oh, yeah. This emergence, renewal, regeneration, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I hear that. I've heard this my whole life, and every society and generation has every couple of generations we go through this. Yeah, it never happens.
Well, it's true.
Misery happens. Misery is a
Well, they're going to get a good dose of it. Now, what can we do about it? I think.
Well, they have to do something about it. We can just two old guys against AI just reflect on.
Well, that's true.
Thank God it's them instead of me.
But I think that they need to start, having serious discussions with their parents, who have the ability to, affect public policy, and start to take a look and say, well, what does my life look like? And unfortunately, most working people are. They're running in circles trying to support their family, and keep a roof over their heads, and that's perhaps part of the plan is that you're kept so busy you don't have a chance to think about it. But as they have more time to think, maybe it's a chance for them to stop and look at their future, because what does that look like? What does that future?
I
look
hope
like
it looks like demanding something better than what they're being offered.
Well, that's about what it boils. That's where I was going with that. They have to ask is is the cost benefit analysis of the direction that we're going now in the I can't say post digital world, but certainly post innovative digital world, as to where we're going, is that good for them? And probably if they're honest in their discussion, they're not going to say that it is good for them.
Well, maybe they're the ones who will ultimately shut this down.
Well, possibly, because they're the ones that are going to be.
They're
the
ones that have to compete with it.
Yep.
They're the ones that are going to have to overcome it.
Yep.
They're the ones that are going to have to deal with the harshest realities, although some of us who are older might, who knows what that's going to look like. I don't know how you have Social Security payments when no one has a job. I keep wondering about this.
So, I guess if I was to look at it to come up with something that's positive here, is for those who are listening, if you are not a Gen Zer, but maybe a millennial or a boomer or whatever, to stop and just think about where the future for our offspring is going to shape into. Because what is this going to look like for them? And if anything, as a parent, the most important thing is what kind of a world are we leaving for our children? And
I hear that, and it's gotten lip service for years, but maybe this time, maybe for the first time,
this
we'll mean it when we say
this isn't a case of saying, okay, well, we're polluting the planet. We are providing a world that will be neutering the very essence of human life, and that's what we're going to be the gift to our children, because we just didn't kick our heels in and say, wait a minute, this is going too fast, too far, and changing the definition of everything.
See you in the next episode.